Uncanceled Comedy Collective presents Top Censored News of the Week. It's Top Censored News of the Week. We're bringing you the stories the mainstream media just refuses to cover. If they do cover them, they always do it in a very dishonest or sloppy way. And it's always on purpose. Coming in at number 3, Alaska just got hit, likely by a direct energy weapon. I don't know if we're allowed to say that. DEW. Well, you're saying likely. It looks like it. We don't know for sure. But what we do know is that nobody's talking about it at all. Here's a report on TikTok. What's happening in Alaska, if you haven't heard. National disaster unfolding in Alaska isn't on the news. The remnants of a typhoon, Helog, slammed into the coast. This house was one of many that was swept away. Governor Mike Huckabee declared a disaster. 20 people are missing. Did you know that? And this was the scene in the islands off of Japan, which was hit as well by the same typhoon. It's very interesting. It was a Category 4, and it head from Japan into Alaska at 156 miles an hour, which is a record. They've never recorded that ever. So Alaska's increasingly bearing the brunt of this. This was from 2 years ago. So this is a collected footage that this isn't the first time something like this happened. News coverage, other stories. National Guard is sent elsewhere, but Alaska gets hit again in a remote state with indigenous communities now counting the coast as very at least they deserve. It's just a little, they're just asking for a little news coverage and they're not getting it. Here's someone on the ground uploading their commentary on it, which we want to show because people need to know this. Here it is.
Typhoon hit Alaska. It had Category 4 hurricane type winds and destroyed several Alaskan Native villages. People woke up to their homes floating down the river, and nobody's talking about it. Right now, a couple of sources are saying that at least 20 people are unaccounted for, but it could be way more considering not much is being pushed out there about what's happening in Alaska right now. Supposedly help is on the way, but with FEMA being defunded and the National Guard being used to invade cities, rescue efforts are very slim. People are stuck in their homes floating down rivers, going into the Bering Sea. Entire villages wiped out. Please spread the word and let people know what is happening in Alaska, because this is mostly impacting indigenous Alaskans.
Spread the word. And as a lot of people are. And but let's get to the part, also the odd part about this. And this is from Hustle Bitch, has been pretty on point with all of the Charlie Kirk coverage. So let's just look at this. This seems to me like a very fair analysis. So Hustle Bitch tweets this out. Engineered typhoon strikes Alaska. They don't want us to know about it. So it's called Typhoon Halong, a storm that started in Asia. It slammed Alaska's western coast. He's reporting at 105, but we saw a higher number reported as well. But regardless, we don't see this type of hurricane speed. It doesn't happen at this level. So homes underwater, entire towns cut off, dozens missing. These two villages have lost nearly 3% of the population. National Guard from Alaska is searching for survivors, but outside the state, it's complete silence. Now, here's the part that is even a little more interesting. The typhoon shouldn't survive in Arctic waters, yet this one got stronger. Radar data vanished. The government shut down, and which we know, and the media is quiet. So we're just asking these questions. Is it modified weather? Is it weather warfare? Or is it just another natural disaster, which it could be? That doesn't look natural at all, though. And if that were the case, you should tell us that. You should be like, hey, this is weird. Tell us about the weird red flags if you're doing honest reporting, or tell us that it's happening at all, which they're not doing either. They call it Typhoon Halong, but anyone watching closely knows this wasn't weather. It was precision. So we're going to leave that one like that right there. And keep an eye on this type of thing, which you guys know we do with other weather modification stories or suspicious weather modification stories we like to stay on top of. Okay, so that's Alaska for you. And I recommend you guys do your own research on this as well and look for stuff that they're not telling us on mainstream media. Okay, coming in at number 2, Gavin Newsom reveals Israel and Big Pharma control California legislation. Actually, maybe we should have done it in the different order. Gavin Newsom reveals that Big Pharma and Israel control California legislation. Well, however you present it, both are true. And he's going to tell you about one of them right here. Here we go. Gavin, take it away. When you're asked directly about this, your relationship with AIPAC, let's see how you respond to that on this podcast. Go for it.
The first to bring up AIPAC in years, which is interesting.
I will not vote for a candidate that takes $1 from AIPAC.
It's interesting. I mean, it's interesting. I haven't thought about AIPAC. And it's interesting. You're like the first to bring up AIPAC in years, which is interesting.
Why
did I say that? Not relevant to my day-to-day life.
Okay.
Which is just interesting.
Listen,
it's interesting you say that. JPAC perhaps more, but AIPAC less and less.
Okay, fair enough.
Which is just interesting.
What's interesting about it?
That it's just interesting as you bring up AIPAC that it hasn't been part of. I'm just reflecting quite openly and honestly. Hasn't been part of the day to day.
Yeah. The only reason why I ask is because with that, what I'm talking about is lobbying in and of itself.
Very interesting, right? Very interesting. And I had a good conversation with Garland Nixon yesterday about this. You guys should go check out that episode on Garland Nixon's show on his channel on YouTube. But we talk about, and he's been, Garland was a, part of the police, and he understands detective work and how you can look for signs and how you look for little body movements. And it's the things that aren't said that tell you. It tells you what's not being said. What is so interesting, Gavin Newsom, and why all the maneuvering? And we saw the same type of maneuvering he did with the Lahaina fires, and particularly here in LA with the LA fires. A lot of this moving around and snaking around and trying to get out of stuff. But that was certainly a giveaway. Well, let's not leave the story there. Let's do a little. How about we do a little digging? Okay. Well, this is from Phantom Pain. Newsom said that JPAC was not as interesting as AIPAC and repeated interesting like 10 times. So a quick search later, JPAC's a full-blown Death Star with satellites disguised as community orgs. You can't make this up. I wish I'd brought this part to Garland yesterday, because he's actually really big on this, where we look at the umbrella company, and then you look at all the other companies that are formed under the umbrella and all those different techniques to hide whatever you're hiding, money or messaging or alignment with people. Well, here's a breakdown, a pretty good one right here. Here we go. Okay, so we got JPAC on top, and you got all of these other Jewish organizations that are linked under the umbrella of JPAC. And as Newsom told us, it actually is more interesting in this regard to see all of these different companies, fake companies, whatever they are, under this umbrella. They're all backing Newsom. So these are the companies, these are the entities that decide California policy and legislation. Well, Matt, what do you mean they decide? I mean, can you give us any sort of example of this? Well, yeah, actually we can, because this just happened. AF Post reports Governor Newsom has signed legislation making California the first state in the nation to establish a statewide anti-Semitism prevention coordinator to oversee all K-12 public schools. Good. We got to get those kids before they get old enough to become terrorists. We got to get those kids, because once they get out of high school, you know what I'm talking about. They get into college, they show up to those terrorist rallies. You guys know the ones I'm talking about, right? So you got to coordinate them and get that slap that anti-Semitism out from them in K-12. That's where to do it. The measure was driven by the Jewish Public Affairs Committee of California, as Gavin Newsom calls it, the more interesting committee, more interesting than JPAC. a robust lobbying network often described as a state-level counterpart to AIPAC. And that's why that's more interesting to Gavin Newsom, because it's the state-level counterpart, the state-level arm that he works with directly. And there he is, Mr. Newsom himself, Mr. JPAC himself, Mr. Yamaka himself. That goes right on top of the head. You know where that goes. They all know where it goes. That's that. Okay, so we know that he has admitted this. Well, what else is, just so you guys understand, this is how the governorship works. This is not unique to Gavin Newsom. It's not unique. This is how all governorships work. This is how all elected officials work. They take their influence from these organizations, from AIPAC, from whatever companies outreaching and getting in their pockets, and that's who they work for. So can the same thing happen with pharma? You betcha. You betcha the same thing can happen with pharma. Here's a more recent one that happened a few weeks ago after the $70 billion Pfizer bill went through, or the Pfizer deal went through. This was Gavin Newsom's counter to that, because he has to fight any fight against big pharma, and he's going to tell you what California is doing about it to respond, because we have to trust the science and follow the science, right? Here it is.
Trump's health secretary fired every single member of the CDC's immunization advisory panel, replacing trusted health experts with vaccine skeptics. That move puts your ability to access critical vaccines at risk. In the face of federal leadership that has completely failed us, the West Coast is taking action, grounded in evidence and safety and transparency, issuing new recommendations for our residents, starting with a vaccine schedule for the winter virus season. Vaccines, they save lives, they protect you, your loved ones, and they stop the return of deadly diseases we beat decades ago. And that's why I'm proud to join our West Coast states in standing up for science, health, and trust.
Standing up for science, health, and trust. Well, here it is, the standing up for. Friend of the show, Dr. Mary Talley Bowden, shows us exactly what happened here. You got 14 states comprising of 31% of the U.S. population are ignoring the CDC and making their own rules about vaccines, led by their governors. These states recommend all babies and pregnant women receive a COVID shot, and these are the main states making up the West Coast Health Alliance. It's led by California, Oregon, and Washington, and Hawaii. And these other ones are the counterpart, not the counterpart, but the additional makeup of the Northeast Public Health Collaborative. So this is happening in all places. But California, make no mistake, Gavin Newsom is the leader of the West Coast Health Alliance initiative, getting everybody involved. And here is the map of that alliance on the left side, and then on the right side you have the Northeast Alliance doing the same thing. These governorships are all controlled by pharma and Israel. That's what we know. So here we are in this fake battle here in California of Newsom versus Trump. Like it's this good guy, bad guy, get bad guy, good guy, depending on what side, what blue or red, whatever side you're on. Not understanding that it's all one function. It's all one function. That's what that is. Since we're on the Newsom topic, I thought this would be funny. Newsom tweeted this out because it's a reminder to you that this theater, it's WWE. You guys know the game, WWE. Here's another attempt of Newsom distracting you from the actual policies going on in California, and is going to tell us what we really need to be upset at or curious about. And it's Trump. That's his arch enemy. That's the WrestleMania character that he's fighting. Newsom is a character. Trump is a character. Here's the character he's fighting. This is a shot of Trump looking like he's about to fall asleep. So Newsom is playing the game of look at the incompetence of our president. That's the game we played about Biden, who actually was losing his ability to just stand up straight or walk. Or we know what happened with Biden, but this is his attempt to continue the theater on this end. And of course, he tweets this out. Honestly thought this was a still image when I first started watching, and that's Trump's mouth starts drooping, blah, 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 struggles to stay awake. You can get any president doing this, but Biden actually had more than anybody as far as opportunities to share his actual dementia. But yeah, so what? Trump's falling asleep. Funny that Gavin Newsom would call this a still image. He was confused. He thought this was a still image. Obviously, he's making a joke. Well, no joke goes without another joke, like this one from Kevin Dalton. Honestly, thought this was a still image when I first started watching. Nope, just a Tuesday morning in Gavin Newsom's California. Here you go. Yep. This is a normal Tuesday in Hollywood. Not faked, not AI'd, not exaggerated. This is what we see right here in LA. Is this some sort of stage theater performance art? No. This is the effects of fentanyl, which has become an epidemic here in Southern California. It's literally walking zombie. These are still zombies in place. If you guys haven't seen this, look at this right on the side of the screen here. So yeah, this is an FU back to Gavin Newsom, who doesn't take care of his own state. He's more concerned about satisfying the needs of pharma and satisfying the needs of APAC and JPAC. So whether it's interesting or not, that's what he's doing. Okay, time for the number one story of top censored news of the week. Coming in at number one, Google Trends timestamped a paper trail which proves that Tyler Robinson was a setup. 100% proof? Well, that's debatable. But why don't you guys tell me, and I'll walk you guys through this. Actually, you know who's going to walk you through? I'm going to give you a guy to walk you through. Let's have James Lee. He's been doing incredible work. I'm giving him a shout out. Obviously, he's not the only one doing great work. We know Candace Owens has been doing great work. We know Max Blumenthal has been doing great work on Charlie Kirk. But let's let James Lee tell us about what this means, what this Google Trends paper stamp is all about. It's a timestamp. Let's hear what it's all about. Take it away, James. And before I press play, he also gives a shout out to Baron Coleman, who actually broke this story, and James took it from there. Here we go. It's good to give credit to fellow journalists. We need to do that. So there you go. James Lee and Baron Coleman's work on the Google Trends reveal. Here we go.
Question: when was the first time you heard the name Tyler Robinson or the Losi Center, a Mauser 98? For me, and I assume many of you, it was in the days and weeks after Charlie Kirk's tragic assassination on September 10th. And you better believe I've been doing some Googling since then, right? Who is Tyler? What are the access points to the Losi Center rooftop? What kind of damage can a 30-06 caliber bullet do? But what if I told you somebody, maybe multiple somebodies, were searching those terms before September 10th? What do you think about that?
Before the shooting. Well, there's Washington, D.C. at 11 a.m., the day before the Charlie Kirk shooting. And you'll see here where the news finally broke that it was, in fact, Tyler James Robinson. But notice that. That's weird. That's weird.
That is weird, I gotta say. Why would anybody be searching the name Tyler James Robinson one day before he allegedly assassinated Charlie Kirk?
First of all, James Lee, would you stop it with your conspiracy theory nonsense questions? We don't need to know. Probably a coincidence, right? Get back to work. Stop asking questions. Stop confusing people. But if you insist, keep going. Give it a little longer. But I don't want to use my brain. But okay, what else do you got?
The data point is just a tiny blip, but it's there. Tyler James Robinson, right? A name that nobody knew of prior to September 12th, 2 days after the shooting, when the media told us who Tyler James Robinson was, right? A supposed 22-year-old leftist who hated Charlie Kirk. So what does that little Google trend blip mean? Well, I did some research using Google Gemini, and they say Google Trends, what it does is normalize search interest to the region you select. The formula is search interest equals total searches in the region and time divided by total searches for the term. So when you look at things from a nationwide context, the total number of searches is enormous. The small handful of searches for Tyler James Robinson on September 9th is so tiny, a fraction of all the US searches, that it gets rounded down to 0. But then when you zoom in a DC context, if you filter for the District of Columbia, the total search volume is much, much smaller. So if a few searches for Tyler James Robinson on September 9th originated in the DC area, then this handful of searches becomes a significant enough proportion of all DC searches on that day to register a value of 18 out of 100. Then it says, and this part is critical, quote, the fact that the searches are localized to DC, a city synonymous with the federal government, intelligence, national media, and political organizations, strongly shifts the interpretation away from random noise or perpetrator checking his own name, from an ambiguous anomaly into a strong potential signal of pre-event institutional knowledge or activity. That is interesting. And to be clear, I'm not coming to any conclusions myself just yet, but that is how Google is interpreting its own trends data. But hold up for a second, strap in, buckle up, whatever you need to do, because there is.
Yeah, and he's continuing the work there. And obviously, there's more to look at there. And it's interesting that we have to continue to qualify every time we talk about this issue. Isn't it funny? We have to keep qualifying. We're not saying conclusively 100% Israel this or this, that. We always have to qualify because people get so angry. Oh, you didn't qualify what you thought to be the determination. It's like, well, that's actually not how investigation works. You don't make a determination and work backwards. It's not a reverse engineering situation. That's not what investigation is. So let's be clear on that. You don't say, well, you're saying that. No, we're asking the questions. We're going down this little rabbit hole. Well, there's a follow-up. Since we saw that report, there's a follow-up. And you notice Israel actually wasn't mentioned in that report. But interesting. When you go a little further with Google Trends, you come up with this from Sam Parker. More Charlie Kirk bombshells. Google Trends analysis shows on top of what was reported about Tyler Robinson being Googled, guess what else got Googled? George Zinn, Bu Mason. They were searched from DC IP in July. And Hunter Kozak was searched from Israel IP. Israel IP in early August. That was right before the assassination. Who was interested in these men weeks before? So look, there's the breakdown. You got on the 21st of July, George Zinn. 16th of July, Bu Mason. August 3rd, Hunter Kozak. Let's refresh you guys so you know who these people are if you haven't forgotten. Especially, you guys should remember George Zinn. This is George Zinn. Kind of wild, the old man George Zinn created a perp distraction that allowed the shooter to escape. Yes, that was a distraction. We covered that. And yes, he's Jewish. Now, okay, now that's not appropriate. Don't talk about a guy's background, history, religion, culture. I don't want to know, but that sounds to me a little anti-Semitic. So let's ignore the Jewish part. That's not cool. Okay. I'm not happy about that part. But no, make no mistake, this guy was the setup. Funny that he was being Googled before the event. Very weird. And we got this follow-up last week from Candace, someone who's been doing excellent work. She verified that George Zinn had received the medical treatment after, saying that he shot Charlie. And during the medical treatment, he told the staff he was getting paid to claim he was a shooter, but wasn't sure where the money was coming from. It's always weird when you guys, don't you hate that when you get the pay and it just arrives in your account? You're like, where did this come from? Where did this $100,000 come from? I don't. It's weird. It happens to all of us. I know. It just whatever. Just like you don't know. Oh, did I go to that restaurant and you got that charge on your credit card? I don't remember. I don't remember who paid me $100,000. I'm not. Whatever. Put me on a lie detector. I don't know. I have no idea. Anyways, interesting. He was Googled. What was the next name on that list? Bu Mason, FBI agent. Interesting. He's the guy that told us that the high-powered bolt action rifle was recovered in the area of the Charlie Kirk assassination. The shoe impression, the palm print, blah, blah, blah. Assassin still at large. So he's the guy that set up the manhunt for Tyler Robinson. So it all starts to line up. Who was that last name that was coming up in those Israel IPs? in those addresses. Who was Googling that last name? Hunter Kozak. Oh, yes, that was the man asking the question when Charlie was shot. Isn't that interesting? The guy that was asking the question about violence, gun violence, as Charlie Kirk was getting murdered, was being Googled from an IP address in Israel. That's a fact. We'll end Top Censor News right there, but I want to give you guys one more look at our FBI director who just in the last 24 hours was asked again about how the investigation is going. And if you guys think for a second that the FBI is on our side and working with us to solve crimes, you're living in a delusional world that doesn't exist. This is our FBI director, and this is what he's going to tell you about how the investigation is going. Listen closely.
There's been so many conspiracy theories swirling around about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Do you have any updates for us, especially in light of all the online content that everyone's been talking about?
The only thing we deal with at the FBI and the Department of Justice is facts. And we delivered at record speed a manhunt to capture Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin in 33 hours.
Isn't it interesting? Record speed. That's the gimmick. They're selling to us what we want. Oh, we're good boy, good doggies. You got your food fast. We gave it to you fast. Fast food. Don't worry about what's in it. Don't worry about all the shit in your fast food. Good boy, eat your food. Fast. No, that's not what we want. You're telling us that's what we want. We don't want fast. We want accurate. We want nutritious. We don't want shit food fed fast. But no, that's what we did it fast. Record time. Keep going. Tell us all the language that we don't want to hear about. Conspiracy theories. Do the name calling bit. That's always a fun one.
If you put that in perspective to Luigi Mangione with the Boston bomb where they took them 5 days and a police officer lost their life in their manhunt. We are running on absolutely every single lead, and the best thing we can do to honor my friend Charlie Kirk's life is to make sure that everyone involved is prosecuted to the full extent of the law, and that's what we're focused on, investigating the facts, not trading in conspiracy theories.
Okay.
Conspiracy theories. And make no mistake, we ain't going to see any of those facts. He says very clearly those facts are only going to be seen by a jury in closed doors. You're never going to see those facts. And a proper follow-up question to Cash in that moment would have been, and I would say interrupt the president and say, one more question, sir, while I have your attention. Have you looked at Google Trends? Does that matter to you? The IP addresses of all the people that happen to be involved after that. And then he says, next question. That would, but just to get it on record, have you looked at Google Trends? Well, we've looked at Google Trends because that's what we do here on The Homeless Left, bringing you guys top censored news of the week.